There are moments when a person enters your mind without warning. You're not scrolling their photos. You're not talking about them. You're not trying to remember them. And yet, there they are. Loud, clear, persistent. This isn't nostalgia. This isn't coincidence. Psychology tells us that when a specific person repeatedly occupies your thoughts, something deeper is happening beneath awareness. Human connection doesn't end where communication stops. The mind continues conversations the mouth never had the courage to speak. Emotional energy doesn't need permission to travel. It moves through memory, silence, and unresolved feeling. That's why sometimes you feel sudden warmth, heaviness, or longing without knowing why. This video reveals 5 powerful signs someone is thinking about you a lot, even if they're silent, distant, or pretending they've moved on. Pay close attention because one of these signs usually appears right before emotions resurface or communication returns. Chapter 1. You suddenly feel their emotional mood. The first sign begins quietly. Your mood shifts without explanation. You feel heavy for no reason, or unusually calm, or emotionally alert, as if something invisible just brushed past you. Psychology explains this as emotional resonance, when two minds remain connected through unresolved emotional attention. When someone thinks about you deeply, especially with emotion attached, regret, longing, curiosity, the brain activates memory networks tied to you. Those networks don't exist in isolation. They echo, and when emotional focus is intense enough, the receiving mind often responds before logic catches up. That's why the feeling comes first, and the understanding comes later. You might feel a sudden urge to check your phone. Or think, why do they feel close right now? Nothing happened externally, but internally everything shifted. This is especially common when the other person suppresses their feelings. Suppressed emotions don't disappear, they concentrate. Psychologists note that the subconscious processes emotional signals faster than conscious thought. You sense the emotional wave before you can name it. This is not fantasy. It's emotional memory activating in real time. The stronger the unfinished connection, the stronger this sign becomes. You're not absorbing random energy. You're responding to a familiar emotional frequency that once felt safe, intense, or unfinished. Chapter 2. They appear in your mind during silence. The second sign appears when your mind is quiet, not when you're distracted, but when there's space, during rest, before sleep, while staring out a window. That's when they arrive, not forcefully, naturally. This matters because the subconscious speaks loudest when the noise fades. Psychology explains that when someone thinks about you repeatedly, your brain retrieves their memory without conscious intent. This retrieval isn't random, it's triggered by emotional relevance. The mind doesn't waste energy revisiting what no longer matters. You're not trying to remember them, they simply arrive. And often the memory feels fresh, like something unfinished is still active. This happens most when the other person is thinking about you but not acting on it. Thoughts without action create pressure. That pressure needs release. The subconscious releases it by reconnecting through memory. You may notice that these thoughts come with emotion, not just images, a feeling of closeness, a sudden ache, or an unexpected warmth. That emotional layer is the key. If it were just a habit, it would feel neutral, but this feels alive. This sign often appears strongest when communication has stopped, but emotional processing hasn't. Silence doesn't end emotional dialogue, it amplifies it. Chapter 3. You dream of them. Repeatedly. Dreams are where the mind stops pretending. When someone thinks about you frequently, especially emotionally, they often appear in your dreams. not as symbols, but as themselves. Psychology states that dreams organize emotional information the conscious mind avoids. If a person keeps showing up, it means their emotional data is still active in your subconscious. These dreams feel different. They're vivid, emotional, sometimes unfinished. You wake up feeling like something was exchanged, even if no words were spoken. This happens most when the other person thinks about you but suppresses it while awake. The mind needs balance. What is denied during the day returns at night. You may notice a pattern. After these dreams, you feel emotionally stirred, nostalgic, or unusually aware of them again. That's not accidental. The dream is the emotional overflow of unspoken thoughts. Psychologists believe repeated dream appearances indicate unresolved emotional attachment, not obsession, but unfinished emotional processing. The connection hasn't closed its loop. If these dreams arrive suddenly after a long silence, pay attention. They often appear before emotional shifts, realizations, or attempts at reconnection, whether physical or emotional. Chapter 4. You feel drawn without wanting to. The fourth sign is resistance, and still being pulled. You tell yourself you're done, that you've moved on, that it doesn't matter anymore, and yet something keeps tugging at your attention. Psychology calls this cognitive emotional dissonance. When the mind wants closure but the emotional bond hasn't released, attraction persists without logic. This pull doesn't feel desperate. It feels subtle, a curiosity, a sudden urge to check something related to them, or thinking, I wonder how they are, without intention. This happens when the other person's thoughts are frequent but unresolved. Emotional focus creates tension. Tension seeks resolution. You're not being weak. You're responding to an unfinished emotional exchange. The strongest version of this sign appears when both people resist at the same time. Mutual suppression strengthens subconscious connection. This is why avoidance doesn't erase bonds. It often intensifies them. Chapter 5. The feeling peaks before contact. The final sign is intensity. Everything amplifies: thoughts, emotions, dreams. That's when people usually say, I couldn't stop thinking about you. Psychology shows that emotional pressure peaks before release. When someone has thought about you for a long time without action, the mind reaches a breaking point. This is when clarity arrives. For them, you may feel restless, alert, emotionally sensitive. That's because the subconscious senses change before the conscious mind confirms it. Whether contact happens or not, this sign marks emotional truth surfacing. Someone has reached the point where avoidance no longer works, and that's why this sign is the most powerful.